Hello and welcome to another video by ES Repair. I am your host, Mr. Fix-It. In this video, I'm going to show you the continuation of building a PC. What you see on your video here on the screen is the case that I had part of my bare bones kit. Most of these kits will match the motherboard size and a typical case. Now the case here, I'm going to show you the different parts of it. As you can see here, most of these cases will come with a fan, as you see here. They have the expansion ports on the back. The fan will come with a connector. You also have the front panel here, which also comes with its own connectors. You've got your audio for your headphones and mic. You also have connectors for the USBs that's in the front. You also have your buttons and indicators from the front panel, your hard drive light, reset button, power switch, and so on. You may also have one of these. Now this one here is a USB 3.0 connector. This is a header for the motherboard that has a 3.0 connector. Now the motherboard I'm using here doesn't have one, so I won't need to be using this cable. But as you can see here, there's a bunch of other stuff. On this side here, I have my drive bays. At the top are the 5 1/4 inch or the optical drive bays. This one here can support 2. In the middle here is for either a floppy drive, or you can put a card reader like I shown in my previous video. Down here is for the hard drives. This stores the 3.5 inch drives. This bay here could support 2 of them. So in reality I could put 2 optical drives, a card reader, and 2 3.5 inch drives in here. Now this case also has one additional bay that you cannot see, because the reason is it's down here in the bottom. You'll see the 4 holes down here. Well, you could put a 2.5 inch drive down there if you like, which I will show you later on in my other videos as I put the computer together. Now here, as you can see, up here in the back is the where the power supply is going to go. I have the case fan, and if you look down here in the bottom, there's the back plate or the face plate that I was talking about earlier. These right here are matched to the motherboard that you're putting into the computer case. Motherboards come with their own face plate because of the back connectors. Over here you have the expansion slots. As you can see, I've already got one knocked out. This is going to be the slot that I'm going to use for my Wi-Fi adapter. On the front, you can see here I've already got the 5 1/4 inch knocked out. This is what I'm going to use for the drive. This one here is going to be for my card reader that I'm going to install. And of course you can see the reset button. There's an indicator in there. USB 2.0. I got my headset, my microphone. This is the 3.0. As you can see, it's a blue connector. And then of course I have my power button. Down here you have your vent. This is where the air flows through your computer to help keep it cool on the inside. Now the front of this does come off, which I will show you later on as we start putting the computer together. In this video I'm going to show you how to install the motherboard into the case. Now one of the things you want to do when you install the motherboard is you're going to notice that there are holes with threads in them. Let me go ahead and zoom in and I will show you the holes. You'll see these holes here. These holes are all throughout the case, and what they do is they're supporting to the motherboard. As I said, motherboards are two different designs, and what they have now is the micro ATX or the full ATX, and every one of them mounts a certain way. This case here is a micro ATX case, which means it only fits micro ATX motherboards. The ATX cases can fit either a micro ATX or it can fit a full ATX. Now what you want to do is, let me grab the motherboard. The motherboard here, you want to take notice of all the mounting holes. For instance, this one here, which is a mounting hole, that's a mounting hole. You want to take note where all the mounting holes on the motherboard are. As you can see, I still got one screw in there. But nonetheless, these are the motherboard, and as you can see, this is the way it's going to fit. So you want to make all the mounting holes match up with the mounting holes in the case. Now to do that, what you will do, once I set that aside, you'll notice that with these holes, you're going to have what's called standoffs. Now the case itself will come with its own standoffs. As you see here, these are the standoffs that I'm going to be using into the motherboard. Now this right here will screw in to the back plane or the back panel of the case, and the motherboard will bolt onto or screw onto this, and then that way you'll have a gap between the motherboard and the metal casing. So what I want to do here is, once you observe the locations of all the holes that you need to add, then you go ahead and take these. Now these will be included in the kit when you buy the case. So you want to take each one and screw them in. And you only want to use the ones that's in the vicinity. This is the ones that the board has holes matching with it. It's very important that you line the two up. So let me go ahead and I'm going to insert all these studs and show you what to do next. Now as you can see, I have all the studs in place. These are the locations that the motherboard is going to has mounting holes. As you can see, there are some extra holes. That's because motherboards are different from manufacturer to manufacturer. So over here they may have different mounting holes than what you see here. But these cases will have all the necessary holes for that particular form factor. In this case, it's a micro ATX. Now, another motherboard may use this hole or this hole. It just depends on the manufacturer of the motherboard. But nonetheless, you'll have all the necessary locations to mount the board. The next thing you want to do is, once you have them in there, you want to tighten them. You can use a wrench or a crescent wrench, something that you can grab a hold of the sides of them. And you want to tighten them just a little bit, about 1/4 turn, and there you go. Now they're all nice and tight. Don't too tighten them because it will damage the threads and the back panel. So you just want to do about 1/4 of a turn once you have them hand tight, and that'll keep them nice and snug. Now, as you can see here, I got the cables out of the way. To put the motherboard in, depending on how much room these cases have, this is a micro ATX, so it's not going to have much room. ATX cases do have much more room to them and easier to install, but they're much larger. Now this one here, because of the base here, or the bays here, and the fans here, I'm going to go ahead and take this fan out. Now, as you can see, I have the case fan removed. It just has 4 screws or Phillips screws that holds it in the back. And I wanted to go ahead and remove it because you need as much room as possible with these small cases to put your motherboard in. Now with the back faceplate, let me show you what it looks like. As you can see here, this is the back faceplate. Each one of them is labeled to show you what each connector goes to. Your VGA, DVI, your keyboard mouse connectors, your audio, and your Ethernet. And they're all labeled. Now these faceplates always come with motherboards of the new designs. Now you may have some motherboards that do not, but most of the time motherboards do come with these because these are matched to the motherboard. Now what I'm going to do here, just set it to the side. I went ahead and popped it out because I wanted to show it to you and show you what they look like. On the back side, as you can see, they have the nipples that sticks out. These are going to touch the connectors. This is to help ground this out to the connectors. And each one has a little pressure plate that sits behind them to help provide pressure up against the faceplate. Now over here, as you can see on the edges, they pretty much just snap in. Once you put them in the hole, just push them in and they snap in. There's no special tool required to put these in, but they are required for the specific motherboard that you're inserting into the computer case. Now, as you can see, I got the motherboard here. I've got all my holes and stuff lined out. Best thing to do is when you work on these motherboards, you want to take the battery out because you don't want no power whatsoever on the motherboard in case you slip or touch something on the motherboard. Nothing is at risk of shorting out because the battery does provide power to the motherboard when there's no other power. So if you're, I'd strongly advise removing the battery. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert it and when you handle these motherboards you just want to do it from the sides, and I'm just going to gently insert the motherboard. Now as you can see from the locations, let me get my screwdriver, you'll see these locations where you'll see the studs, these are brass. Let me go ahead and zoom in to these and show you what I'm talking about. As you see here, you can see the brass lining up with a hole. Now you want to make sure that you have everything that's lined up. As you see here and here. There we go. Yeah. Now you can see that one there. Now you want to make sure all the holes line up with the studs. Now before we can do anything with the motherboard, what we need to do is we need to insert the faceplate. There is a faceplate. We need to go ahead and insert it. So what we need to do is back up the motherboard. Now I've got the motherboard backed up. As you can see here, I got a little gap on this side here, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and insert the faceplate or the back plate. Now when you insert these, you want to make sure that they're correct, and just slide it back here in the back. Like so. And they just pop right in. Once you get the faceplate in, now you can slide the motherboard to the back, and you want to make sure that you raise these connectors. You may have to raise them to make sure they go over the container of the box. So what you want to do is just gently slide. like so, and you want them to get them to where they'll touch at the top. Just make sure that they get grounded. Now once you have it firmly pushed up against the back here and nothing's caught, make sure you don't have these this spines here to catch on anything. And then once you have everything pushed back to the back, you'll notice everything fits firmly. Once you have that, start putting the screws in. Now, as you can see here, I've got my bolts, or my screws, located in all the correct locations. As you see here, I got this one here, that one there. You got that one, which is probably to the bottom where you can't see it. Let me lift this up. And you'll see the bolt down there. You got screws in all the proper locations. Now when you put the screws in, just be sure that you only hand tighten them. You don't want it too tight because you don't want to damage the board, but you want it tight enough to where it doesn't loosen. And basically just keep them hand tight. Now as you can see, the board is flush up against the back plate. This is what you want. Nothing's jammed up or blocked. And that is how you install the motherboard. Now, the motherboard here, as you can see, is ready to be connected. Now, the next thing you want to do, now that the motherboard's in place, is go ahead and set the processor. Now, the processor, again, is the main component. Now, with these processors, what you'll have, if you look right here, just to the bottom of your socket here, you'll see a lever. These sockets are called ZIFs, zero insert force. They're real easy. What you'll do is you go ahead and lift the lever up. You'll hear it pop. And what it does, if you look closely, you'll notice that you can see the pins within. So what you want to do is just lift it all the way up till it's perpendicular. Now you're ready to put the processor in. Now when it comes to the processor, you want to use extra due diligence with these processors. On top you have the heat sink. Anytime you handle the processors, you just want to handle them by the edges. You'll notice the pins on the bottom. Notice the darkened spaces in the middle. Those are matching with what's on the socket. This is very important. These are the layouts of the processor. And whatever you do, do not touch these pins. Do not drop it. Do not mash them, because once the pins are bent, the CPU is useless. You'll have to have it replaced. Now, you need to take extra care when handling these. Now, another thing you're going to notice is the marker on this end. You'll see this little arrow marker which indicates pin number 1, or the orientation that the processor has to be in. If you look on the motherboard, you're going to see a similar one marked. Let me go ahead and zoom in and I'll show you the specific. Now, as you can see a closer look, you'll notice there's an arrow in this corner. This indicates and match with the arrow that you see on the processor. This shows you the orientation the processor has to have with the socket. So what you'll do is you'll take the processor, line up the orientation, you'll sit it above the socket, now you don't want to force it. The processor will easily fit in that socket. You're just setting it down. You don't want to force it. If you're having trouble with it, don't force it. It should just easily set down. You may have to barely move it to line up with the holes for it to fit. Now, take note, you'll notice that the arrow is lined up with the arrow on the board. This ensures that you have it in the correct orientation. Again, it shouldn't move. It just sits in the spot. Once you have the processor properly seated, all you do is take the lever and push it down and lock it. This will keep the processor in place and ready to use. Well, this is going to conclude this video. I've shown you how to set a motherboard into the micro ATX case, and I've also showed you how to insert your processor into the motherboard. Now keep in mind that when you buy these, you want to make sure that the motherboard and the processor match. If you can get them as a bare bones kit or as a motherboard CPU combo, perfect, because you don't have to waste time trying to find a processor to fit your motherboard. They're all already done. Well, I'm your host, Mr. Fix-It. Stay tuned for more videos on building your PC. Thank you for watching.